Hi, today I'm going to discuss the life of the very notable Fra Angelico. I'll be going through his life, accomplishments, and a timeline of his creations. First, let's start with his early life. Not much was noted of his early life because it happened so long ago. However, Fra Angelico was born near the town of Vecchio, which is near Florence, Italy, somewhere between the years of 1395 to 1400. Fra Angelico was born into a wealthy family with two other siblings, a sister and a brother. Both his sister and brother were both monks and lived a very religious lifestyle, similar to his. Fra Angelico began his training under the painter Lorenzo Monaco. Lorenzo Monaco was a manuscript illuminator that was popular in Florence during this time. During the dates of 1418 to 1423, he joined the monastery of San Domenico. Fra Angelico's creative style was greatly inspired by schooling in the Dominican order. His paintings were intended to communicate spiritual lessons, and his work evolved into a kind of religious devotion. As a monk of the Dominican order, Angelico engaged in religious readings, fastings, and other kind of religious activities. Angelico's commitment to the order and its principles was clear in both his professional and personal life, and future paintings that he will create kind of showed his devotion to his religion and his schooling. While working at San Domenico, Angelico as a monk produced three altarpieces for the Dominican monastery, including the San Domenico altarpiece and an illustrated choir manual known as Missale 558. These creations showed his real dedication to the Dominican principles and showed his unique take on many traditional scenes in Christianity. These principles were very centered around the adoration of Christ and Mary, and this was very evident in many of Angelico's early paintings and even some paintings that he will create in the future. During the 1420s, there was a terrible plague epidemic going around in the country. This plague killed many notable artists and drastically changed the creative scene in Florence. Because of this shift, Fra Angelico increased in popularity and his art expanded beyond the limitations of the Dominican order. This was a time where he really figured out his own style and what was best for him. His increased popularity allowed him to have his own studio where he produced a lot of high-quality work. One very significant painting that he created during this time was the San Marco altarpiece. This piece was regarded as one of the most important partnerships between artistry and the religious Dominican ideals, which emphasized humility, simplicity, and the devotion to Christ. This painting shows Mary announcing that she'll be giving birth to the Son of God, and it was finished in 1423. The next influential painting Fra Angelico created was titled The Last Judgment, which served as a backdrop for seats during High Mass in Florence's Santa Maria degli Angeli church. Here, Christ is shown in the artwork deciding whether the deceased will go to heaven or hell. The artwork shows Christ elevated in the sky and surrounded by saints, angels, and Saint John the Baptist. The artwork depicts many symbols all around the painting, including angels dancing, open graves, vegetations, and demons. Fra Angelico was praised during his time for his unconventional painting styles and his use of inventive, illusionistic viewpoint and creation of depth. He used his own style and interpretation to create a piece that was very unique for the time and very entertaining for the church people. Fra Angelico's picture, Deposition of Christ, combines modern and antique elements to create a devotional scene. This picture shows Christ's sacrifice, utilizing a narrow Gothic style frame which surrounds a panoramic scene that disappears into the distance. It is a representation of both peace and drama, and its attention to detail and bright colors set it apart from other pieces in its time. In the Italian Renaissance art, this picture really signaled a change in the direction and was a very revolutionary piece that motivated artists to create similar art styles. In 1434, Fra Angelico produced his work called the Annunciation. This showed the moment that Mary was informed by the archangel Gabriel that she'd be becoming the mother of the God's Son. This painting was especially influential because it showed solid figures in a structured setting, and Fra Angelico used his own personal style to really create this traditional scene in his own interpretation. Each part of the painting symbolizes different parts of the story. For example, the garden symbolized a certain aspect of Mary's innocence, and the marble floor and wings also had its own significance towards the painting. The blossoms in the grass and the intricate details on Gabriel's robe showed a very complex nature of the piece and really defied the piece's simplicity. From 1434 to 1435, Fra Angelico created the Coronation of the Virgin, which shows the Virgin Mary being crowned as the King or Queen of Paradise. This painting was requested by a convent of sisters in the Church of Saint Egidio, and the painting really highlights different elements of the traditional scene, including individuals staring into the heavens, the angels, divine beams all across the painting, clouds, and a gold backdrop. So even though there are tons of intricacies such as the dazzling light robe hems and the wisps of clouds, this piece has more classical symmetry than previous pieces that Fra Angelico made, so that it shows the development of his using of symmetry and symmetry-related techniques. From 1435 to 1444, Fra Angelico continued his work in Florence. He worked on different frescoes in the church San Lorenzo in Perugia and created over 50 more pieces of artwork for San Marco's church. His style and his constant religious observance inspired the work of other artists as well. In 1445, he decided to move to Rome. Here he stayed for another 5 years until 1450. Fra Angelico was appointed to decorate the chapel of San Rizzo. However, the church ran into some monetary issues, so Angelico and his assistant had to stop their work. 50 years later, however, their painting was finished by another well-known painter, Luca Signorelli. He still paid tribute to Angelico in the finished work by including a portrait of him. In 1455, Fra Angelico sadly passed away. Even though he's no longer alive, his work still tells a story. Many of his church paintings are still popular and viewed by several people. Before becoming recognized as the angelic painter, Fra Angelico was a Dominican monk and artist. Like many other artists during this time, Fra Angelico was a real trailblazer of early Renaissance style and tendencies, including his use of light and shadow and the logical handling of pictorial space. Throughout his life, he was in the forefront of the Florence's art environment and continued to push the boundaries, inspiring the next generation of future artists. And here are my sources. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned a little bit more about Fra Angelico and the work that he created in his lifetime.